for somebody to take care of me. I'm looking for somebody to take care of them damn selves. They look beat down. To me, it's about a balance, and it's about me not feeling like I'm worn the fuck out. If our household chores and our domestic tasks are not 50-50, I'm not paying 50-50 on the bills. I don't care how much money I'm making. Y'all, I have been catching so much heat about one of my videos from a couple of weeks ago when I said that I need a man that makes as much as me or more than me. And so I felt like I would address that because I've had a few different comments from guys. I'm assuming that they're guys that, they was feeling some type of way about it. I was called bougie. I was, some guy was like, I'm not going to find love. Stuff like that. So let me just say this, because I think it's important to touch on it, right? Because the whole purpose of me even doing these dating chronicles is to hopefully shed light, give some advice, or more so just talk more about why I do what I do and why I'm operating the way that I'm choosing to operate. So one of my main things, basically a bare minimum qualification for me, is that I have a guy that matches me on paper. And that can, include so many different aspects like ambition. And mind you, this is all through experience. There was a time and a place where matching me on paper was not that big of a priority. And then I found that those same things where they didn't match me, it bothered me, whether it was like immediately in a relationship or later down the line. But because I was already in the relationship, I kind of like just ignored it. But it kept resurfacing. So I decided this time around, since I'm dating intentionally, the guy needs to match me on paper. And if that's a problem for people, then fuck you. That's all I have. So a guy needs to match me on paper. He needs to be ambitious because I'm ambitious. He needs to have a career because I have a career. He needs to be financially self-sufficient because I'm financially self-sufficient. And then, and honestly, there's not a whole lot more beyond that when I say match me on paper, because I don't require that a guy has 0 kids, even though I have 0 kids. I don't require that he owns a house, even though I own my house. There's just different things that I'm not requiring. And I think that in itself speaks to how open I am being, opposed to guys are trying to say that I'm being like superficial and I'm focused on the wrong thing. That's their business, because I know that I'm focusing on what matters to me. So a guy needs to be financially sufficient, meaning whatever his lifestyle that he's established over the last few years, he needs, or over the course of his life, he needs to be able to afford it. And when I say afford it, I mean like you're not stretching yourself to make things happen. You've got a savings account. Hell, you might even have investments. That is what I mean. But if you're entering a relationship where I'm a traditionalist, I feel like, and honestly, I'm only partial traditional because I work and I plan to work. Like I don't plan to, I would never be a woman who solely relies on a man for my livelihood. I tried that. So again, this is all from experience. I tried that, and I will say it was the worst life I've ever experienced. I didn't have any freedom, any flexibility, any say-so. It was like the worst case scenario. Thankfully, up until that point, I had been working, so I had savings where I was able to separate myself from that situation and, start a new life, basically. But if a guy is like, okay, I'm in a place in my life where I want to be in a relationship. I want a partner. I want to be the man of the household. I want the respect of being the man of the household. I expect my woman to do X, Y, and Z around the household. Then yeah, you need to be matching me or more financially. And I'm even giving a little bit of leeway on that, right? Let's say, because I realize I make more than the median household in America. Thankfully, I've just made the right career decisions. I've been promoted. I've been in my same field for 10 years. So I've worked my way up, and now I'm making this a good living, especially for someone who doesn't have responsibilities. Like nobody's depending on me for their livelihood. So I make decent money. But let's just say for ease, I make $100,000 a year. I'm not requesting that my man makes $150,000 a year, but he cannot make less than $80,000. And let's get into the why. Number one, it goes back to me being more traditional, but slightly progressive, right? So let's say we come together, we bring all of our obligations together. That might be his 1 or 2 kids. That's my mortgage. That's this and this and that, right? And we join together and we're under one household. For one, he has to be able to take care of his own kids. I'm not saying that I'm never going to spend money on them, but child support's not coming out of my pay. What else? Sports shit ain't coming out of my pay. Like the extracurricular activities, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be responsible for that unless I want to. Unless I'm feeling it. Like I know his son he's trying out for baseball, so I get him a cool little baseball helmet. I don't know, something like that. But I'm not paying the fees. I'm not paying for the uniform. I'm not paying for the road trips. You know what I'm saying? So he needs to be able to take care of his kids. That's bare minimum. But then also, he needs to be able to take care of the majority of the household expenses. And the reason for that is, statistically speaking, I as the woman would be more responsible for the household chores, for the domestic tasks. That's feeding us as a family. That's cleaning up. That's doing washing clothes. That's helping the kids with homework. That's all the things that go into taking care of a household. Statistically, I will be the main person responsible for those tasks. So that means if our household chores and our domestic tasks are not 50-50, I'm not paying 50-50 on the bills. I don't care how much money I'm making. To me, it's about a balance, and it's about me not feeling like I'm worn the fuck out because here I am going to work 40 hours plus a week to help pay for the household, but then also I'm doing all the household work. That just doesn't seem like a good life for me. That is not what I envision for myself. So that's one reason. He has to make at least as close to what I'm making so he can take care of the majority of the household expenses. Because more than likely, I'll be taking care of the most of the household duties, which the traditional side of me, I'm actually pretty okay with that. I don't mind, especially because I'm low-key type A personality where, I like things the way that I like them. It needs to be clean to my standard. The food needs to be good and all the different things, right? Decorating the house needs to be done. So I totally do not mind taking on that responsibility. Even helping the kids with the homework. I don't mind that. But I am going to mind it if I'm also obligated to work 40 hours a week to pay half of the bills. That's just not going to work for me. I'm going to get exhausted and I'm just going to feel like things are not fair. And it's going to build resentment, which defeats the whole purpose. I don't want a partner that I'm eventually going to resent because it's inevitable. I know me, and I'm not saying this is the case for everybody. Shit, some women are super women and they're able to work 40 plus hours a week and then come home and take care of all those tasks. But those women that I've come across that live that life, they look beat down. I'm just going to say that. They look beat down. They don't look their age. They look tired all the time. And they're not that happy. And I just don't see that for myself. The other reason why it's important that the man makes as much or more than me is because statistically, studies show that men, and I'll probably put the article up somewhere on the screen, but in relationships or marriages where men make significantly less than their women, statistically, or those marriages are 50% more likely to end in a divorce for a lot of those reasons that I just said. You know, because the woman is worn out. She's not feeling like she's getting back as much as she's giving. And I just don't want that life for me. And when I get married, I want us to have the strongest possibility of lasting, because I don't want to get divorced. Nobody wants to get divorced, but if you ignore shit like this in the beginning, just to have somebody, just to be a wife, just to say my husband, then you're signing yourself up for some bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that. And then alternatively, studies show that when the roles are more traditional, and I can't speak for the young folks, the Gen Zers and below, I don't know what's going through their brains these days, but I'm a millennial and I am dating other millennials, and also, who are the people before us? I don't know, the generation before us, where things are a little bit more traditional in the way that we think. And studies show that when the roles within the household are more traditional, they have a better chance of staying together. And that actually plays a lot into the man. That plays a lot into the man and his ego. You know, men are raised, and it's ingrained in them through society that they are the providers and that they are the man of the household, and that they should be the ones making the decisions for the household and leading their family, right? It's tough to do that from a man's perspective when your woman out earns you significantly. I'm not saying he makes 80 and she makes 100. That I'm okay with, and that's the lowest that I will be able to go for this reason. I don't want to fight your ego. I feel like we already have to do that a little bit as women, because that's just part of the game. I don't want this to be a factor of it though. So I'm bowing out in the beginning. If it ain't set up right financially, I already know that's one additional task that I have to take on, and I don't want to. So I'm not fighting your ego. I'm not about to exhaust my energy trying to lift you up because you feel less than, because I make more money. That just doesn't sound like a good gig to me. I don't want to do that. And, you know, forgive me if that sounds like I'm being unreasonable or irrational. That's just how I see my life. And personally, I've never dated a man who made less than me, so I've never had to experience this personally. All I can say is I know who I am. And if I'm bringing in more of the money, chances are I'm making more of the decisions because I have more at stake. That's just what it is. I'm so sorry if people want to gloss over it and say, oh no, it's 50-50 and, you know, the women gotta be submissive to the... No, fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not going to be submissive to an extent where you're spending all of my money and I don't agree with the way that you're doing that. And yeah, I'm saying my money because I'm the one putting in that 40 hours. I'm the one that's mentally exhausted by the end of the week. I'm the one whose salary, so no matter how many hours I work, I'm still getting the same pay. So it's my money. And his money is his money. I don't see myself in a marriage where we're bringing all of our money together. I just don't think that's a good idea. That's a little bit too traditional for me, and that's where I draw the line. He's going to have his bank account. I'm going to have my bank account, and we're going to have a joint bank account where okay, we'll have bills in this account. We'll pay bills out of this account. We'll save up for trips out of this account. But ultimately, you've got your own shit and I've got my own shit. Because first of all, you deserve that freedom. I don't want to clock everything that you're spending your money on. But if you're spending my money, I'm clocking it. I need to know, like, what the hell am I working for? You know what I'm saying? So that's another huge thing, is just fighting the ego, and then also just that energy battle of like masculinity, femininity. As a woman, yes, I want to be submissive. However, the man has to set the stage for that. I'm just not out here submitting to every bum that approaches me out at the grocery store. Okay? That's dumb. I wouldn't do that. So if the right man sets the right stage, I will gladly be submissive and I will be so in love. But as a woman, you gotta be smart. You cannot be submissive to a man just because society and social media is telling you, yeah, that's why black women ain't getting, married, because they're not submissive enough and da-da-da-da. First of all, I hate when people say that, because it's not right. There's a whole lot of other factors that go into that, such as how we're raised, such as the type of support we have, such as how we're seen and expected to be strong. There's a lot of stuff that go into that. So you can't just strip that away from a person and expect them to just submit to everything. No, if we've had to be strong, we had to be self-sufficient, we've had to be all these things, that means whatever we do have, whether it's big or small, we have worked very hard to get. And I'm not going to just submit that up to just any old body. That's just me. And going back to the woman doing most of the chores, that's just statistically the way that it is. According to some studies, women breadwinners in their family spend an additional 7.5 hours on household chores per week. That's a whole nother work shift. And so it gets to a point where the woman don't feel supported. The woman is like constantly moving. And I'm just going to say, with me being single and having no kids, that would be a culture shock for me. I can't go from this life that I currently have to now I'm on 24/7 because dude came in with his 1 or 2 kids, making less money than me, expecting me to go 50 on the bills, plus all the household chores, or the majority of the household chores. I'm going to feel like, what the fuck am I doing here? Whoa, how does this benefit me? I don't even think I could fall in love in a scenario like that, because there's acts of service as a love language. So it matters. Those things matter. People think that they have to choose 1 or 2 love languages, when the reality is we respond to all those love languages. We might have 1 or 2 that we put at a higher level or a higher priority than the others, but ultimately I want all of them in some way, form, or another. So if I'm carrying all this burden financially and domestically, I'm not going to feel supported and I'm not going to be happy. That's just what it is. And then alternatively, when the men are the breadwinners, they almost are twice as likely to not do any domestic tasks. No. Y'all want us, the men want us to go 50-50 on bills, but you're not going to go 50-50 on domestic tasks. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. I'm not gonna sign up for that. No, I'll just be single. Like if that's my option versus single, girl, I want to be single each and every time. Another reason, and I'm trying so hard to make this short, but it matters. There's so many reasons why I say what I say, and I'm living the way that I'm living. What time is it? Because I have a meeting in 25 minutes. Okay. Studies show that when men make less money, significantly less money than their women, they are more likely to cheat. Now, this might be a little controversial because some may argue a man gonna cheat regardless, right? That's in a man's DNA. I don't agree with that notion. Of course, I've been cheated on before, but that hasn't been my every relationship experience. And I think that you find the right guy on the right wavelength as you and who's looking for the same thing as you, you're not gonna have to worry about that. But even if so, let's just say you got a 50-50 chance that a man gonna cheat on you or not, or that you got a cheating man. Studies show that when a man makes less money than her, he's more likely to cheat by 15%. It's not a large number, but it still matters. Versus a woman, if she makes more money than him, she's 5% more likely to cheat. To me, I already know I'm not no cheater. I'm not going to cheat. I'm beyond that. I'm grown. It's not going to happen. But also, that's one thing that I'm not going to worry about with my man. If he's a cheater or if he's cheating, if I feel like I got to look through phones and things like that, then it's not a good situation for me and I'm out. That's just what it is. So, it's like that's one more thing that would add temptation or the space for a man to be a cheater. And just why? Why? We can just avoid that. The reason why this study shows that men are more likely to cheat by 15% is because when it goes back to what I was saying earlier, when a woman makes more than the man, and so his woman is making more than him, it challenges his masculinity. It challenges his self-esteem. So, in order to get that back up, of course, he's probably going to seek, a thought. He's going to seek something easier, something that is more submissive, something that, is going to validate that he's a man. And for whatever reason, men do that through sex. So it's not worth it to me. I'd rather you just make sure you make enough money to match me. I'm not asking that you make significantly more than me, because the more I grow in my career, the more money I'm going to make. And the harder it probably will be for me to find a man that's matching me. Unless I'm like shooting for millionaires, which they come with their own slew of problems. So no, I want a normal fucking guy who's works hard in his career, who's financially responsible to be with. I'm not looking for somebody to take care of me. I'm looking for somebody to take care of them damn selves, but then contribute how you're going to contribute to the household, whether that's 50-50 in chores or whether you're going to take care of the majority of the bills. Another reason why it's important that the guy makes more than me for me is because, obviously nobody wants to get married and assume that there's going to be a divorce. I don't see me necessarily walking in and saying, hey, we need a prenup before we get this going. But also in the back of my mind, I have to be realistic in the fact that divorces are very common these days. And it could happen. And hopefully I choose the right guy so that it doesn't happen. But if it does, and I make substantially more money than him, guess who the fuck is paying alimony? This guy. I don't see that happening. If I ever have to get divorced, I want a clean fucking break. You don't owe me nothing. I don't owe you nothing. We'll split our assets down the middle. Have a great life. But for me to have to pay alimony at the end of that is nuts. And I just don't see that for myself. So that's another reason why it's important. And then the final reason to wrap this up is because this is going to sound a little bit contradictory, but only slightly if you really can pay attention, right? When I am married and we decide that we want kids, I want to be home to raise my kids until they're in grade school. And so that's what, 5-6 years? The first 5 or 6 years of their life. God forbid we have multiple, that obviously extends it out. I could be home. I could be a stay-at-home for 10 years or so, right? So it's important that my man is able to provide for the household with or without my money. Now, that's not to say that I want to put all that burden on him. I would hate that because I don't want him feeling like any kind of way. However, I also don't want to be forced to work because we can't afford otherwise. And then secondly, I do plan to still contribute to the household, whether that's through real estate investments, whether that's through actual investments, whether that's through a business, whether that's through helping him with whatever he's trying to get going. It doesn't matter. I do plan to still contribute so that he doesn't feel all that burden, but it's important to me that I get to raise my kids. I don't want to do childcare. I don't want to do daycare services. I don't want to be like, go to your grandma's house. No, they're my kids. And it's important to me that they don't grow up with childhood trauma. And I'm not saying I'm going to be a perfect parent. I'm going to fuck up. However, let that be my fuck up. I don't want to expose my kids to other people who aren't willing to raise my kids in a way that I want them to be raised. And so that's just really important that I'm able to be there and pour all that love and that nurturing, that attention, that development into my kids. So those are the reasons why. You can hate me if you want. If you love me, I love you too. But I said what I said, and I'm going to stand on that. I can't make significantly more money than my guy, and that doesn't make me bougie.